configuration of serial 10. Let me to copy this for serial 11. For serial 11, we have again IP router iSize command and also iSize circuit type level 1. Also we have serial 12 interface serial 12. The first command is IP router iSize and the second command is iSize circuit type level 2. That's it. Look at here. This interface is the level 2 interface. Why? Because this is connected to the backbone or level 2 routers. That's it. This is the configuration of router 3, and here we have two changes. The first change is that I didn't configure the IS type because you know that the default IS type is level 1-2, and because the R3 is level 1-2 router, I didn't configure it. And also we have another change. The next change is that in this router we should configure the level of the circuits, means level of the interface. But in the, for example, R1, we didn't configure the level of interface. Why? Because R1 is level 1 and the interface of R1 also is level 1. But R3 is level 1, 2, and the interface of R3 should be defined with level 1 and also level 2. That's it. This is the configuration of router 3 about the iSize. After that, in router 4, we need to configure iSize. Let me to start with configuration of the router 4. You know that router 4 is one of the L2 routers, router IS. Okay. The first command, net command 49003. Then quad 4, 00, and then we should enable log adjacency change, and also we should configure IS type level 2. This is the level 2 router. We need to configure IS type and also log adjacency change. Okay. And after that, we need to configure on the serial 10 and serial 11 the iSize interface. Serial 10, we don't need to configure circuit type because this is the level 2 only router. You can configure here IS type level 2 or level 2 only. Both of them are correct. Okay. Interface serial 10 IP router IS. That's it. Then interface serial, or for example 11. Why I didn't use the passive interface? Because you know that here in both of these interfaces we have neighbors. We shouldn't use passive. When you are configuring one interface as passive, this means that I'm not going to configure or to establish neighborship on that interface. Interface serial 11 IP router IS. Okay, this is our fourth configuration. Now we can configure R5. The configuration of R5 similar with the configuration of R3. Let me to use the configuration of R3 here, copy, and after that in R5 we can change some values, and after that we can use it. In R5, router iSize. Don't forget that if you want, you can configure different area tag or iSize tag in the routers, because this isn't mandatory that we are using the same tag in routers, but it's better to using the same tag, or for example, don't using the tag at all. And then router iSize, the first command, net command 490002. Then we should use the system ID, unique system ID, quad 5. Then log adjacency change all, because this is a level 1-2 router. We don't need to configure the level because the default value is level 1-2 router. Then we have three interfaces, serial 10, serial 11, serial 12. The first command on serial 10 IP router iSize, and then iSize circuit type is level 1. Also serial 11 IP router iSize circuit type again level 1, and finally serial 12 IP router iSize circuit type level 2. That's it. This is the configuration of the for example R5. Then we should configure R6. Let me to configure here. For R6 again we should use router iSize. The first command, you know it, net command 49 then 002. Now you can understand that why we needed the for example CLNMP, why we needed the learning of CLNMP. As I mentioned in the previous videos, you should learn, you should understand the detail of the CLNMP address to configuring the suitable, the good net address. Net 49002, then for example quad 6, then quad 6, then 00. After that, we need to configure the IS type. IS type is level 1. And after that, we need to enable log adjacency change all. And after that, for example, we can configure the ISIs on the interface of serial 10, interface serial 10, IP, router, ISIs. We don't need to configure IS circuit type. Why? Because this is a level 1 router. Also here, look at here, we need to configure ISIs on the ETH00. One of the methods that you can use it, you can enable ISIs on this interface with IP router ISIs. This is possible, but you know that the better practice is using the passive interface. For example, I'm going to use passive interface ETH00 because here, as you can see, we don't have other ISIs neighbors, and we don't need to sending ISIs hello packet on this interface. Okay, let me at the start, for example, using the passive interface ETH00, but in the future, in this video, I'm going to talk about another type of passive interface default, passive interface default. Okay, and also let me finally configure the router 7. Here is the router 7. Now we have router ISIs. Again, net address is 49002 and the system ID is quad 7, then quad 7, and finally again quad 7. 0, 0. IS type is level 1. Log adjacency change all is used. And then passive interface ETH00 and interface serial 10 with the IP router ISIS configuration. This is the configuration of ISIS for this scenario. We configured ISIS, we configured net address, we configured IS type. Also, we configured circuit type, and also we enabled log adjacency change, and finally we enabled some interfaces with the passive feature. Let me to copy this configuration in our, for example, CLIs, and seeing the result of the copy of configuration in the CLI. This is our configuration. And then this is the CLI. Let me start with the router 1. Step by step, we can verify the result of copying the configuration. First, starting with the router 1. This is the first router. We should carefully copy, and we should carefully, for example, check and verify the result. Maybe we receive some error message. In the router 1, en conft, then configuration of ISIs. Look at here. I enabled router ISIs and net and IS type and log adjacency change, passive interface, and finally interface serial 00 with IP router ISIs. We didn't receive any error message. Very good. Let's go to router 2. In router 2, this router, I'm going to copy the configuration again in router 2, en conft, and then copy, paste. Again, we don't have any error message. And let me to configuring the R3 here. Look at here. This is the R3 copy and pasting on the R3. Look at here. After configuring in the configuration in the R3, we can see that we have two neighborship with router 1 and router 2 because we enabled the log. We can see the log. Look at here, log of the adjacency conft here, copy and paste. Router ISIS, net address, and other configuration. Look at here, we have two neighbors. I will show you the neighbors. The first neighbor is, this is a system ID of neighbor, and this is the second neighbor with the router 2. Very good. Let me to continue. For in the router 4, after configuring router 4, we will have another neighbor, and this neighbor is the level 2 neighbor. We have two types of neighbors, level 1 neighbor, level 2 neighbor. Because R3 now has two level 1 neighbor. Here now we can see one level 2 neighbor. Let me to configuring the router 4. This is the configuration of router 4. Copy and then pasting in the router 4 CLI en conft, okay, and then pasting here. After some second, we will have one level 2 neighbor. Look at it, adjacency to quad 3, and also in R3 we can see new neighborship with the router 4. Let me to continue in router 5, and in router 5 you know that after we copy the configuration of router 5 and pasting in the router 5 CLI, we will have another neighborship with the router 4. Look at here, en, because until now we didn't configure R6 and R7, en conft, and this is the configuration of the router 5. Now, as you can see, we have one neighbor. ship with router 4.